Welcome to this edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com. Financial deceit during divorce proceedings is unfortunately common, and today's topic is about the most prevalent ways divorcing couples attempt to hide assets and how you can tell if your spouse is attempting to hide something from you. Our guest is Jerome Johnson, a CPA certified in financial forensics and a principal at the forensic firm in New Mexico. Jerome is an expert in specialized forensic financial services, particularly with regard to family law. So Jerome, first off, getting right into it, I want to know, as everyone out there also wants to know, and what I mentioned in the intro, is what are some of these most common ways that divorcing couples attempt to hide assets from each other?
Typically what I'll see is you'll have a lot of transactions related to cash. They'll hit the ATM. You'll see unusual transactions out of bank accounts or financial accounts. In turn, they will go and open up either a separate bank account that they're depositing the money in. They'll put it into safe deposit boxes that the other spouse doesn't have access to. Another one that's really common is you'll have people that will transfer money out into uniform gift to minors account under the child's name. That way the interest, any interest that's earned on it and so forth, does not show up on a tax return when you're looking at those. Those would probably be the three biggest ones that I see on a regular basis of people trying to hide assets.
So are there situations guys should be aware of where it's more likely an attempt to hide assets or some sort of financial secrecy would occur?
Yeah, I was going to say if people believe that they're headed towards divorce, I would start, and the other spouse has managed the finances throughout the marriage, and start inquiring questions to the other spouse, kind of see what reaction that they get. If wife in this case does a lot of online banking and it's never when husband's home, stuff like that, I would be suspicious of that. If there's suspected infidelity, I would be suspicious that there's potential hidden assets, i.e. in the way of extravagant gifts for the new boyfriend, picking up meals when she's meeting with the new boyfriend, etc. Stuff along those lines that would raise a red flag.
So what are red flags guys should be aware of that may be surefire signs some financial deceit on behalf of their spouse is going on?
I'm looking for a lot of the same thing, just in a lot deeper detail. I'm looking for patterns, reviewing tax returns for 3 or 5 years. I want to follow through if I've got interest on a bank account from 5 years ago and I don't have it today. I'm going to inquire as to what happened to that account. Why am I not seeing it on a tax return? Going through the bank statements in detail to see if I see a pattern of a mortgage payment. It's typically going to be the same amount for 12 months. Maybe a change depending on what happens with the escrow account, but I'm going to see those type of expenditures. If I see another large recurring item pop up, do we have a new piece of real estate? Do we have, and I've had a couple of cases where we've had somebody that went and bought a new car and had it in a storage unit, was making payments on it and would take it off, and they had the intention of driving it after the marriage was over because they put a large down payment on it. So you're looking for stuff like that, stuff out of the ordinary, looking for large transactions, and not even so much large transactions, but patterns for amounts that are withdrawn on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that raise a red flag. And with the use of the software and technology today, we're able to process a lot of data, if we can get it electronically, really fast and narrow it down to maybe 10% of the checks or the transactions that we're looking, that we should be looking at in a lot more detail. Then I would want to go through and see at that point backup for that. I want to see a copy of the front and the back of a check. Want to know that, yes, it was made out to the person that's represented to be. Is that person related? If I may take the other spouse and ask them, do you know the person that this check is made out to? Do you have a reason to believe believe that they would pay this amount of money, to where you're looking to see if money's transferred between friends, between family members, in an attempt to get it out of the marital estate prior to a divorce.
Finally, if you suspect assets are being hidden, what can the average guy do in that situation?
The average guy on that, what I would suggest to him up front would be to start doing some of the legwork related to being able to figure out what's going on themselves. Get copies of tax returns. If you've got copies of the tax returns at the house, I would get those and go make a copy and have those off-site. I would look through the web browser history. That's a good one. If you've got a computer that's a family computer at home, and you're able to go in there and see, what kind of transactions are happening. Is there a Bank of America, that's showing up in the browser history, but yet you bank at a different bank? Those are going to be signs that raise some red flags. Ask questions. And that's one that I've seen people that have been suspicious. They'll ask questions of the other spouse just to see what reaction they get. If they inquire and the spouse is extremely secretive, then maybe it warrants being able to do more legwork. If you know you bank at a certain bank, just go in and ask them for a copy of the last 3 months of history if you're not the one that handles the banking. Look through there and see if there's stuff that looks out of the ordinary, just to where you start getting a feel for what's out there and what kind of transactions are going on. There are a lot of ATM withdrawals. Review the tax return in a little more detail. If you don't understand the tax return, find a financial professional to sit down and go over it with you and explain it. If you've got gambling losses on a Schedule A, you potentially have some gambling. Go through the stock transactions on Schedule D of a tax return. If the other spouse is trying to hide money, have they done it out of an investment account? If so, there would be tax return information related to it, the sale of those stocks and the liquidation of them, to where you're like, okay, I didn't know that we even had an account at XYZ company that we had stocks in, and here are these trades that are showing up on a regular basis. If you've got a spouse that all of a sudden has a pay decrease for some reason when you're looking through the bank accounts, and you see the deposit goes from $3,000 a month down to $2,000 a month for the normal paycheck. Why? Is there a way is there salary deferral going on through the employer? Is there money being taken, and instead of the full deposit going in, is there money being diverted to another account that you're not unaware of? Look for some of those signs to be able to figure out if you should be potentially digging. If you suspect it, move fast to where you can go in and get things locked up sooner rather than later. I've had cases where people have suspected that money's been being transferred out for years, and they haven't done anything about it. And it gets really expensive the longer you have to go back and try and recreate the history of what goes on.
Well, Jerome, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful. I appreciate it, and thank you for the opportunity.
That was Jerome Johnson talking about financial deceit during divorce. Jerome is a CPA who is certified in financial forensics and is a principal in the forensic firm located in New Mexico. That'll do it for this edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com.